Let's begin the process of building our application's views and layouts. Now, one way I like to implement a design for an application is to start with an HTML-only version of the pages. We can then start copying and pasting the raw HTML into the places that it should go in our application. Once we have that general structure in place, we can begin to replace that static content piece by piece with more dynamic content that's generated by our code. This also makes it easier to keep your markup looking correct along the way. So inside this folder, I have an HTML version of our application, including the CSS and so forth. And as you can see, it's really not that big. It's only about 5 main pages or so. I can just right-click on the index.html file and open it up in something like Notepad++. What we basically want to do is copy the entire contents of this page into our MVC layout file. We can then start working on extracting the body content into a view and replacing these static resource links with dynamic ones and those kinds of tasks. So let's do that now. I'll just highlight all of this markup and copy it. And over in our MVC app, let's open up our layout file and just paste over all of the content that's in there right now. This might seem like a step backwards at first, but I have found this way to be much faster overall than trying to edit line by line, especially with a more complex design. This is also a really common technique for theme development for content management systems and such, because it helps ensure your markup is exactly right. We can make this layout more manageable to work with by quickly extracting out the markup that will go into our index view. This will include everything inside the page wrapper div, so let's just highlight everything inside of that tag that I've marked here. And let's go ahead and cut that out. If we open up our index view, we can just paste over everything that was in that file with our cut markup. We'll revisit this file a bit later, but for now this will work just fine. Back in our layout file, the next thing we want to do is take care of this navigation content. I'm just going to highlight the entire nav element and cut that out as well. Now this block of content we actually want to place inside of a partial view, but we need to create another file for that first. Partial views generally go in the shared folder, so if we right click on that, we can choose to add a new partial. Go ahead and call that nav, and then let's hit enter. And this file will be blank to start with, but just go ahead and paste the nav code in there, and then this file will be all set for right now as well. Now back in our layout view, we want to make sure the two views we worked on get pulled in correctly. To do this, we're going to need to use a few Razor helpers. Razor is the main view engine of MVC, and it offers all kinds of small helper methods to generate markup and just use various features. Razor code always begins with the @ sign, so inside of our page wrapper div, we can just type @renderBody and close out the parentheses. And this is a special method of Razor that will pull in the main view of our page into the layout file. So everything we put in our index view will now be injected into this spot. Next, we want to pull in our navigation view. So above this div, we can use the Razor partial view helper method. So I'll just type @html.partial and then pass in the name of the view we created, which is nav. The next thing we want to do is finish building the rest of these pages by copying the contents from each file into the corresponding view. This is a bit tedious, but it's really simple to do, and hopefully you're starting to get the hang of this process. So first I'll close all of our open files by just right-clicking at the top here. So we'll clean this up quick, and then let's click on both of our message views to open them. Next I'll jump over to our file system folder, and I'll right-click on our view all file. We can again just highlight everything inside of the page wrapper div, so I'll grab all of this quick, and then copy it from that file into the corresponding view. Remember, we can just paste over the entire contents like so. Next we can click on the reply file and repeat this process again. So I'll just highlight all of the static content, being careful to grab only what we need. So go ahead and copy that and then paste it into our reply view. With all that in place, both of these files will be completed, and we can move on to our tasks view, which will be the last step. So let's just close both of these files at the top to keep things clean, and then we can double click on our task views to open up both of those as well. Back in our file folder template, I'll right click on the view tasks HTML file and open that up again in Notepad. Once again, we can highlight all of the content inside of the page wrapper div and then move back over to Visual Studio. We already have our view all file open, so let's make sure we paste our new contents into that correct view. We just have one more file to go for right now. So I'll open up the create edit file, which is also for our tasks, and then let's highlight all this content and copy that same block again. Finally, we can move over to Visual Studio and let's just finish pasting in this last piece. Once this is all in place, all of our pages will be finished for right now. So we're making good progress, but if we were to run this in the browser right now, it would not look correct at all. If we go back to our layout file, you can see that at the top, we still have these static references to our CSS and JavaScript files. These paths will not work anymore, so none of our styling will pull through. In the next lesson, let's look at how to pull these in dynamically and how to work with bundles.